Yeah, so as I said, let me just go ahead and repeat this just for those that are some are just signing on actually. Um, so starting the entire month of March, you're going to start your personal journals. And with that, you're going to write maybe a paragraph or two, just on something that stood out to you in each class. Now, these personal journals are for you, so you're keeping it for yourself. But however, it will be implemented into your final group presentation. So that the difference between the first presentation of this one is you're going to do your journal entries and you're going to make mention of something that stood out to you in the course. Okay, so some students decide to do it collectively at the end of the presentation or sometimes while they're doing it. I'm going to leave that to all of you, your professional and intelligent discretion. So I'll let you do that. And then so from March 9th to March 30th, you'll be tabbing and making a post in your personal journals. And then, like I said, at the end of the semester, when you complete your final exam, you will submit that to me. Okay. So you have a quiz number 4 that is scheduled. And it's actually a mini case on Facebook. And all you're going to do is answer the questions at the end. It's all about, it says, should Facebook acquire, cooperate, or just stay a fierce rival with LinkedIn? You know, they have a little competition going on there. And then so there's 5 questions, and you can use whatever you read in that handout of the mini case, or, you know, also say something about the video, you know, that you're getting ready to look at. You know, the link is there too, so you can have a look at it. And of course, I posted in the reading material area. I think I didn't put the mini case there, but I will. So now I'm going to share the screen and let you see this particular video I was referring to.
Have you ever tried using LinkedIn or Facebook for business to business or B2B marketing? While both are viable options, LinkedIn is best for business to business marketing, while Facebook dominates the business to consumer or B2C marketing. Today, we'll be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each platform for B2B, especially in the area of pay-per-click advertising. I'm Alex for Jotform. Let's jump right in.
Okay, so what did you all think about that video as it relates to strategic planning and as it relates to the different kinds of planning that Facebook would use versus what LinkedIn uses? Because both of them is kind of funny because LinkedIn, as you know, has evolved years. You know, when LinkedIn first came out, I remember my former boss had told me, said, Marie, because I told him I was going to explore other opportunities. So he's the one that introduced me to LinkedIn. He said, well, you might want to get on LinkedIn when you're ready to get back out there and see where some of your other coworkers have gone or other opportunities, people that have formerly been at Disney and been going into consultant work. And he said, I feel like it's a wonderful forum. But at that time, it was seemed to be strictly used for like the corporate type of stuff. So could anybody just chime in at this? Hi, Vanessa and Jessica. Can anybody just chime in at this point and tell me what they think is the difference between LinkedIn and Facebook and their advertisement?
I think for me, Facebook has too much information. It's hard to, how does it say, to filter. It's like a lot. LinkedIn is more like networking directed, and it's easier to absorb and to go through and get, like, go straight to what you're looking for.
That is really true. Very good, Giselle. One of the things that stood out what she said, number one, she just said that Facebook is just too much. It you know, like When it first started out, we knew that it was something good because they actually put a face to you communicating with people, and opposed to just doing emails. And it was created initially by Mark Zuckerberg. And what they was trying to do is to find a different way to communicate with students on the campus where they were together. But it has, of course, evolved. And, I always like to say that something good can sometimes get to be too much. And I still think that there's some wonderful aspects of it. You're able to talk to family members that are not living in, close to you, where in the state you are, or even in the country. So that's something that is very positive. But I have to agree with Giselle when she said Facebook is just so much. And in recent years, we also learned that even though they said that they protect your personal data, that it is being spilled out all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And then, as she said, with LinkedIn, the networking, and she said about it's connected. That's the plus about it all. It's interesting to me how advertisement with Facebook has just doubled itself, but that's what's helping to pay for it. And then, with me, because I worked in advertising for so many years, I was like, free advertising all over the globe. You ain't got to send an email. You can actually put a picture up and promote. In my mind, I'm like, this is the best thing that I've hit the planet. But like anything could be overexhausted. I don't want to talk too much. I'm gonna let anybody else can dive in and tell me what you feel about it. We're thinking about the topic, which is strategic action. Okay, so like the strategy and the action to get things done, a plan. And people definitely use Facebook for that. So anybody else have a comment? Thank you, Giselle.
I think they have very different markets. LinkedIn is more business and professional oriented, and Facebook is, everyone that has a Facebook account. So it's kind of, they're just like very different mediums for social networking.
Very true. Do you think it's good for planning, Patrick? Like if you have a company, would you consider which one of those, or would you consider both those mediums?
Oh, sorry, you broke up there.
Oh, okay. So would you consider Facebook or LinkedIn, like if you started your own business, or would you use both? Is that something that you would consider to use, Facebook and LinkedIn?
I mean, I guess it would depend what field I'm in. If I was marketing to like everyone and anyone, I would go with Facebook. And if I wanted something more specialized, like in like some kind of field like business oriented, I would be more LinkedIn oriented.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Patrick, for that.
I agree with Patrick, but also I think that I would use both. I like LinkedIn from the point of view that LinkedIn, like you can get people for your business, that you can get professional advice, that you can get like the professionals you need for it in order to grow. But you can get on Facebook, you can get all the marketing that you need. Like it's gonna reach all kind, of like targets that you want. On LinkedIn, there is only like very specific people. And I think that using both of them, each one for a specific purpose, like would be the right move.
Yeah, very good. That's true. And you're absolutely right. That professional networking and being able to actually get advice when you connect with different ones. You're absolutely right. So that's something that I can see the reason that you would use both. But like Patrick was saying, also because it's two different mediums, you're going to use one for one aspect and the other for, that's just my preference as well. Anybody else?
I would like to comment something. It's like from my point of view, it's like Facebook doesn't really sound serious. Like what, like it's like just like for example, if I saw a job like offer on Facebook versus LinkedIn, I wouldn't take the job offer from Facebook. So I was like, everyone just can post like random stuff on there.
True.
And yeah, right. Just like it doesn't feel secure enough
Right.
if it's like, for business and stuff. And one thing that I like about is that everyone who view your profile on LinkedIn, like actually someone have viewed your profile. But on Facebook, you don't have that. Like everyone can like spot you like out of nowhere. Like you don't even know whether they looked at you unless you make your account like private.
That's a big thing, especially for people that are looking for employment.
Mhm.
And you get to see who's reviewing you on LinkedIn. So you're absolutely right. That was good, Katie. So who I didn't hear from, Giselle, what do you think?
It's Jessica, Professor. Giselle too went
Oh,
first.
Jessica, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize, Giselle.
I think I was reading an article that was talking about that Facebook's focus is like more in younger, like new generation. And like LinkedIn is like what everyone said, like more like networking, connection, like work and real things. I do use both. And for example, I have a fish tank. And if I have any problem in my fish tank, I go to Facebook, like there's like groups that you can talk about, that you can ask questions, like, what is this? What is that? Like if someone want to buy something or sell another thing, So I do think that like they both are very important, but for different purpose, for different reasons. That's my opinion.
That's a good answer. She said they both are very important. And it goes back to what we're saying. And what Patrick said, the two mediums really are two different things, but they're in some ways doing the same thing. And it's very interesting. I have like a lot of old coworkers that I probably never would have kept in touch with. You every now and then you might get in touch with them, but when they're posting something on LinkedIn, you get to see different things they're doing and congratulate them on it, or congratulate them on their job anniversary. So that that's a really big plus. And so that's definitely LinkedIn. I think it's a very good forum. I like the fact that you're able to put a face there too. So it's 1:45. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a break right here. And if there's any questions before I sign off, we're going to just take a really quick 15-minute break and we'll be back at 7. Okay? No questions? All right, I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Thanks, guys. So be sure to take your notes if you have any questions, or if there's something that you really want to ask me, just feel free to just let me know. Okay, so we're going to be covering today, as we said, this all came out of our book, chapter 5 and 6. The topic is strategies and action, okay? And some of the areas we'll be covering is what is a strategy, action plan, strategy analysis and choice, and implementing strategies. Okay, what is a strategic action plan? So let's start by differentiating between a strategic plan and a strategic action plan. In short, strategic planning is the process by which you plot out step by step how your organization will get where it wants to be. Of course, you'll hear something about the vision statement later on in this presentation, but everything has to be in sync with what your vision is. And this is definitely a part of the foundation. Your vision statement and your mission statement would be a part and the foundation of your strategic action plan. So developing an action plan can help change makers turn their vision into reality and increase efficiency and accountability with an organization. An action plan describes the way your organization will meet its objectives through detailed action steps that describes how and when these steps will be taken. This section provides a guide for developing and utilizing your group's action plan. So basically any organization, you usually are whatever steps you're taking, as I said before, it has to be in sync with the vision. But along the way, you have your vision, you have your mission statements. But while in business, there will be some things that have to take place of time for you to be productive and new ideas, right? So then you have to strategically plan the process to implement those new things that'll help you sometimes make your job run more efficiently or to take on bigger projects. Sometimes companies pick up and start generating a lot of money, and they have to get people to come in and advisors, stakeholders usually will have to form like meetings and to kind of do the process step by step, how your organization will get where it wants to be. When you have a big organization, especially, there's no way it will be successful if you do not be strategic in the planning and map it out. So what is an action plan? In some ways, an action plan, some people call it heroic because it helps to turn your dreams for your company into like a reality. And an action plan is a way to make sure that your organization, the vision of your organization is carried out. And it usually is concrete in accordance to the vision. It describes the way your group or your organization will use its strategy to meet its objective. An action plan consists of a few actions, steps, or changes to be brought about in your community. Each action step or change is to be sought and should include the following information. Now, note I keep saying groups, right? Well, if it's an organization, it could be a committee, but it could be a large company or even a small company. Some people refer to like a mom and pop, right? But whatever it is, usually you would have like a group that's working on different things, right? Even if you have a small company, you have two people working on this. Somebody's over here working on building a new building, or usually you are going to give us an assignment out. So here's just a few of those few steps that you can take. You would say what the action or change will occur. Who will carry these changes, right? By when they will take place. So that's all about time and dates, and for how long. What resources, for example, money, staff, as I said before. Sometimes you got to hire people to help you to be able to expedite a new action plan. Are needed to carry out these changes. And just like everything else, it goes back to communication. Who should know what? Communication is always key. It comes back to that. Communication is very essential, especially when you have people working together. And you need to know what everybody is doing so you can remain on the same path length and to reach the objective of the company. So in this next one, it says, what are the criteria for a good action plan? The action plan for your initiative should meet several criteria in the action plan. Complete, does it list all the action steps or changes to be sought in all relevant parts of the community? For example, it says school, business, government, faith, community. Clear. I put a question mark there because it's like, is your action plan clear? I mean, if you can't understand it, don't expect anybody else to understand it. So is it clear to whoever it is that's doing it, whoever the workers are, or it's in the community? If you're doing something that will affect the community, and this word comes out a lot in this presentation because sometimes when companies are doing big things, it affects the people around them, right? In the area. So if you're doing something that doesn't affect the area, that's one thing. But if you're changing something, and usually if it's, especially if it's something like a retail or, you know, something that will affect the schools, there's a lot of things, of course, we could go back to what's going on in the government right now, right? And if it affects the community, then you need to be clear and concise and let people know that in your action plan. Why? Because how are they going to know what to do? Current. Does the action plan reflect the current work? Does it anticipate newly emerging opportunities and barriers? So this is one of those things. Here's an example. So I found this particular chart. It says strategic planning cycle chart is often used in corporate meetings to give a visual layout of a plan and action, especially when there's something new. Usually when there's a launch of something new, it could be a product, or even if there's a move that's going to take place, maybe companies are dividing, merging together somewhere else. Usually there's a strategic planning cycle. So in this one, is you can't read that good up, I blew it up. It says, how can we improve? That would all fall into like the goals, but we'll start at the top. So you got the mission is always going to be that, like I said, that's the foundation. So in this particular chart, it's right in the center. Goals, where do we want to go, right? And then desired outcome, how do we get there? Strategies, right? And then what falls under that is how do we measure the success? Measures and targets. How did we do? So you're checking the results, right? And then at the end, as you see that arrows pointing towards the goals, how can we improve? So this is a really good chart, you know, and a lot of times the chart might include, if it's a large corporation, the different departments that it affects. What is it affecting? Is it affecting the accounting department? What is it affecting? Is it affecting the production department? And it would be all specified in something called a strategic planning cycle. And the way the company would like to see it evolve has something to do with how they write it up. So I found another one I thought was good because it gives you a pyramid. The pyramid you see a lot because they usually like that because so the foundation is the projects, right? The foundation, as you see, is the big picture, a specific project to achieve the initiative. So at the bottom of the project, it would be the largest part. And this is one of the most important parts of it. This is the project, right? But all of it has to go to the hierarchy. So the very tip of this pyramid is the vision. See how that always goes back? The mission. This is what we've been learning over the last few weeks about the vision statement, the mission statement, and then it has values. So that's something very important. So right here it reads, it says with the vision, future state, what we choose to be, outcome of the mission, why we exist, our core purpose, our value for who and how, our culture, our beliefs. Then you have goals, strategic goals, areas and measures of the success target. And then it has strategies, our strategy plans to achieve our goals, initiatives, our areas of focus, what we need to do to support our strategies. And then it goes right back to, like I said, the bottom says the specific project to achieve the initiative. So this is a pretty good chart. Why should you develop an action plan? Can somebody answer that before I go into what I have written here? Why do you think it's important, just from everything you've heard so far and after watching the video? Why should you develop an action plan? Anyone?
maybe it's because that, we can have like a framework for like, thinking how we will complete like what we planned to do.
That's good. Very good. Anybody else? Why do you think it's important to have that in place?
Because it's like a route that can help you accomplish your goals and the objectives you have in a company.
Very good, Vanessa. Very good. It's very important. You ever tried driving a car and didn't know where you were going? Right? So you need to have an objective, a vision, a roadmap. Like she said, Vanessa just said rules. You need to know where you're going. And like Katie said, it's good for everybody to be knowing what you're working on. Anybody else? Why should you develop an action plan?
If you don't have an action plan, you cannot implement how do you say, the mission, like your goals, the detail of how to, as you said, how to get to your, how to achieve what you want to achieve, the goals.
Very good. Very good. That's your goals you want to achieve. So that's good. That's the main thing I wanted to get out. You start out on it with a plan, but you definitely need a map. You need something to guide you so that you can fulfill the goals.
Professor, can
Yes.
we see the action plan as like a to-do list?
Sure.
Or, oh, okay, that works. Okay, thank you.
Sure. You could call it like a to-do list. But when you do that to-do list, that action plan has to be a part of that to-do list, right? So you have the action plan is telling you what you're going to do, right? So you have the to-do list, then you do the action plan, and okay, so I know I got to do this. So first thing we're going to do is come together. We're going to have a meeting, blah, 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 and then we could expedite the action, right? So why should you develop an action plan? There is an inspirational adage that says people don't plan to fail. Instead, they fail to plan, because you certainly don't want to fail. It makes sense to take all the steps necessary to ensure success, including developing an action plan. There are lots of good reasons to work out the details of your organization's work and an action plan, and including lend credibility to your organization. You have an action plan. People like to hear that you know where you're going. And stakeholders like to invest in someone that actually has an action plan and has a vision and sticking with it. Okay, I can have the biggest vision in the world, but how am I going to do it? How am I going to expedite it? And even a mission. My mission is my goal to be here in 5 years. We're going to be done. We're going to buy another building in the next 10 years. How am I going to do that? So stakeholders, they really like to see that you already have something in place. You already know who's going to do what. And you hear people say, like a friend of mine, he said, okay, so I decided to expand my business. What he did was he started to do research, and he hired somebody that worked at Harvard University to handle the invoices just for the new project. So he still has his company running, but he has this young lady that's from Harvard, and she has a degree in accounting. She's handling just the new project. That's called an action plan, right? And then eventually, what will happen is that she'll be able to have somebody working with her. But in the beginning, he just hired her to get it going. So that's something that's a good thing just to, have in place. So to lend credibility to your organization, an action plan shows members of the community, including the grant makers, people that write grants and give grants to the causes, what they call them philanthropists, that your organization is well ordered and dedicated to getting things done. Okay, to be sure that you don't overlook any of the details, to understand what it is and is it possible for your organization to do. There might be some things you would like to do, but it's good for you to know, okay, I really wanted to do renovation, but we can't afford that right now, but we're going to do what we can do. So it's important for you to know what you can do. And it's just as important for you to know that what you're not able to do right now, right? And understand what it is and what isn't possible for your organization to do. For efficiency, to save time, energy, and resources in the long run. Well, of course, people like to see that you're using your money wisely. Why would I invest in your company and it looks like you just wasted your money on things that didn't work out? But if I see that you strategically planned and you didn't open up the second building because you knew the first building wasn't done yet. Some people get excited when their business starts to boom and they want to do it. We're going to do a chain. We're going to start a chain and open up another business in another part. But if the first one isn't done right, how are you going to open up the second, right? So you need to be wise and be efficient to save time, energy, and resources in the long run. For accountability, to increase the chances that people will do what needs to be done. Accountability is essential. You know, what I find is that some people, they may start working on a job and they're going to do just what's on their job description and that's it. Well, those people that do that sometimes are not open. And I'll give you a story too. It's not good. I've learned. I'm going to blame it on my youth. But I was asked to do something and my boss at this time was out of town. And I said, that's not a part of my job description because somebody just walked over and asked me to do something. Well, let me let you know that was on a Friday. That Monday, I had a brand new job description. And that was on there and some other things was on there too. So sometimes in order for you to be able to be progressive and to move up, it's something called accountability. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, and you'll find be able to move up. You may not be able to move as fast as you wanted to, but people like to know that you're interested in learning new things. And people definitely will invest if they see that your accountability is something that's very important. Do I have any questions at this time? Comments? Okay. So when should you create an action plan? Ideally, an action plan should be developed within the first 6 months to 1 year of the start of an organization. It is developed after you have determined the vision, the mission, objectives, and strategies of your group, okay? Now, if you develop an action plan, when you are ready to get started and get things done, it will give you a blueprint for running your organization or your initiative. That's true. It's a good thing to have a blueprint and a strategy already planned out that you've worked towards it. You say, okay, I already finished the first one. Let me get to the next one. Okay, remember though, an action plan is always a work in progress, like I just finished saying. It is not something you can just write, lock in your file drawer and forget about it. You need to keep it visible, display it permanently someplace. As your organization changes and grows, you will want to continually, usually monthly, revise your action plan to fit the changes needs of your organization, your group, and your community. You know, I gave an assignment the other night, and what we all saw was that organizations sometimes change their vision statement, and sometimes they change their mission statement. It's called amending it. Sometimes they amend these things. And even though the statement was there, like if you look back and you say, okay, in the book, they had one vision statement, but when I looked on their website, they've updated it. So sometimes vision statements do change. How to write an action plan. Determine what people and sectors of the community should be changed and involved in finding solutions. Notice what I said, determine what people and sectors of the community should be changed and involved in finding the solutions. That means that there may be something in place, and in order for you to expedite what your plan is, you might have to go to, when I say community, if it affects the general public in general or the community, you might have to address it and say, I'm interested in doing this. We want to build a store right here. And people may not want you to build that store right there. And so you might have to make changes to that, or, to be able to get your point across and show how this is going to help community, how it would benefit and not take from the community, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes people just don't want you in there. They may not want retail in a particular area, especially if it's residential area. If you have been using what they call the VMOSA, which represents visa, mission, objectives, strategies, and an action plan model. You may have already done this when you were deciding upon your organization objectives. But again, try to be inclusive. Let people know what's going on. For example, dealing with COVID-19 and most of the health and the development issues that the community participants should deal with community-wide. We know when you had a pandemic, no one saw it coming. So that definitely was not a part of the mission, wasn't part of the vision, and wasn't part of your plan, your action plan. So you had to change some things, right? So anytime, like I said before, if it affects the community around you. So partnerships deal with community-wide, and thus need a community-wide solution, right? So whether you can't come up with a solution by yourself when it's affecting everybody around you. Possible sectors include the media, the business community, religious organizations, schools, youth organizations, social service organizations, and health organizations, and others. Let me ask a question right there. Is there any story that anyone could share with me that maybe they experienced on their job as a result of COVID, that is some things that had to be changed on your job, or how did it affect your work? Is there anyone that's willing to share something with me about it at this point?
Well, not work, but like obviously, like we shifted from like, in class to like Zoom meetings a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like the real big pink elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You're no longer meeting together.
Yeah.
Right.
And also we're getting like, paperwork from, usually we would receive like paperwork from school, but then now everything's like digital. Like I would email you the PDF instead. Well, it's more convenient in my like point of view, because like I could get it like right away, but they would ask us to print it out. I was like, where can I find a printer? Like I don't have a printer at home.
It's so true, because I know, I started evolving to try to do more things anyway, technically, right? But with everything that's going on, it's like, why should I be wasting all this paper to print? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's definitely some things that have changed. I watched even before COVID, just doing consultant work, and I've watched companies evolve away from having all the files and all that stuff. And these files used to take hours to do. And now people are using shared files. People are everything is on the digital spectrum, right? So that saved a lot of money. Plus, they don't have to have a person that they hired to just do files. That's another thing. But definitely it affected us as it relates to school. And it was a quick turnover. Everything, everything had to stop, because you just didn't know. So that was a great example. Thank you. Corporations consider partnerships when creating an action plan. Well, like we just finished saying, because of COVID, a lot of companies merged together with other organizations to try to find a way, especially in the entertainment business, right? The Broadway shows was canceled, right? Or everything was changed. Trust me, that was not part of the plan. There was shows that had just hit Broadway, and those shows had to stop immediately. And then I was just seeing a commercial where they had some shows that had just started, like Tina Turner and the Temptations and different ones. And as soon as it started, they had to stop the productions because people started getting sick, right? So sometimes it goes back to, like I said, some members of the community you might consider asking to join an action plan to kind of help you get things going. In the case of, like I said, if somebody's opening up a store in particular, you get some people in the community involved, and they might, they can share the story and say, well, that we're joining together. Get somebody that people are familiar with, right? It says here on the slide, influential people from all the parts of the community affected by your initiative, as it relates to churches, synagogues, the school system, law enforcement, celebrities, etc. You get people like that involved in your initiative, and consider even starting partnerships with them. And you know what? People respect it. They don't like when you come into their neighborhoods, right, in their communities, and just formulate your action plan, and you didn't say anything to anybody and a lot of people find themselves dealing with protests, and sometimes they stop it from happening, So it's just good to do that. So it says, people who are directly involved in the problem, local high school students and their parents might be involved in planning a coalition trying to reduce teen substance abuse. For example, if your initiative is to stop the substance abuse using, drugs or what have you, wouldn't it make sense to get some of the parents involved? Because some parents are not even aware maybe that is so bad in the school or something like that, for example. So this example about a high school student is good. Like, you would get the parents involved. And that definitely would be something good to help, and a great partnership. Members of grassroots organizations, members of various ethnics and cultural groups in your community would be good. People who are interested in the problem or the issue. If you know somebody that has a little passion for it, and maybe they're not willing to take the whole responsibility, but encourage them to join what you have going on. That's good. And newcomers or young people in the community who are not yet involved. This is just something that, just thinking in terms of creating an action plan. A couple of good examples. So this is one of the things that came to my mind. This is an example. Starbucks partnered with Apple Music and collaborating on selling music as part of the coffee house experience. In October 2006, Apple added a Starbucks entertainment area to the iTunes store, selling music similar to what's played in the store. I thought this was brilliant at the time. I like how they also give back to college students, and the students that they hire, they actually pay back a percentage of, for them to go to school. So that's a very good initiative and a good partnership if you want to get something expedited. So it says right here, Starbucks has agreed in 2007, it announced the customers will be able to browse iTunes stores at Starbucks via Wi-Fi in the US with no requirement to log into the Wi-Fi network, targeted at iPhone, iPod Touch, iPads, and MacBooks. Now, y'all know this is really where it is with our young people today, young adults, not just that, business people in general. The iTunes store will automatically detect recent songs played in a Starbucks and offer users the opportunity to download the track. That's brilliant. I think that is absolutely brilliant. And of course, why wouldn't Apple want to be a part of something like that? More sales for them, right? Another example, let's consider some of the people who were involved with the planning group for the fictional Reducing the Risk, RTR coalition that hopes to reduce the rate of teen pregnancy. Some of the members of this planning group includes teachers at the local high school, that makes sense, local teenagers and their parents, members of the clergy, counselors and school nurses, staff of the county, health department, and members of youth organizations, several agencies and other organizations that focus on the youth issues. Doesn't that make sense? That makes a whole lot of sense. And then I have another example. Okay, so Disney Strategic Action joined forces with Black Lives
Sorry.
Matter. Yes?
Teacher, I'm sorry. I want to ask a question to my classmate because I feel that it's breaking a little. I don't know if it's just me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's fine, but just back then is a little lacking.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was me.
No, one of the things they told me is that so many people that sign on at the same time, that sometimes that causes an issue. But I do apologize. Yeah, anytime that happens, let me know. So do you need me to go over this other screen? Let me go back. This one. So what I talked about, just giving another example, what I'm trying to relay here is that in your planning, you have to consider all factors, right, with your planning. So in this particular one, it was RTR, they called it Reducing the Risk. There was a coalition that helped to reduce the rate of teen pregnancies. Some of the members of this planning group included teachers at local high schools, local teenagers and their parents, members of the clergy, counselors and school nurses, staff of the county health department, and members of youth organizations, services agencies, and the organizations that focus on youth issues. So this is something that affects them, right? So it makes sense to try to get clergy. I mean, these are places also that a lot of people congregate. Think about that. So get the churches, members of the clergy, right? And then the nurses. People want to know what they're saying in terms of the health department, right? So you get people from the health department, get them involved, and that would be something that could really reach the youth. Because sometimes when you get people of those positions, they listen to it better than just you coming up with a cause. So you get all these people involved, the schools involved, local teenagers and their parents, and it really helps the initiative. And this is all a part of strategic planning. So Disney Strategic Action joined forces with Black Lives Matter cause. Disney made a $5 million pledge to a nonprofit social justice organization for demonstration over the police killing of George Floyd, okay? And it continued all across the country. But people were waiting to see who was going to be the ones that actually, you don't have to be out there protesting, but they wanted to see places that they know. Yeah, I just got a message saying that that is unstable, so I apologize for that. The connection is becoming unstable. So if I go out, I'm coming back in. So let's just put that out there. It happens. But anyway, Walt Disney, a huge Disney with 9 entities, right? And so many people support going to the theme parks. And a lot of the leaders of these different organizations just wanted to see what the people were going to do and who's going to stand with them. So they let them know we're standing with our brothers and sisters. And they actually put a link on the Disney website, the major Disney website, to let people know for Disneyland and different things, some of the initiatives that they were doing to just show the support of, and to let people know that they didn't agree with, the police killing of George Floyd. Okay. Do I have any questions at this point? So you convey a planning group in your community. Can everybody hear me at this point? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Still hear me good. So you could convey a planning committee, a group in your community to design your action plan. This might be the same group of people who worked with you to decide your group strategy and objectives. In other words, that committee could be your employees and you just forming a few committees within your company. If you are organizing a new group of people, try to make your planning committee as diverse and inclusive as possible. Did you hear that? Diverse and inclusive. It's good to see other nationalities represented, races, everything, people can relate better. That's just normal, So your group should look like the people most affected by the problem or the issue. That's another thing they do like to see. So you see, we're almost done with this. Once everyone is present, you mean coming together in your organization, you want to go over it often. Your vision, your mission, objectives, strategies, target, and agents of change. For example, the youth, like we said before, their parents and their guardians, clergy. Propose changes for each sector of the community: schools, faith community, service organizations, health organizations, and government. And we see even with our elections, they had to formulate a planning strategy. People that are running for the various office, when the mayor was running for the various office, he had to put certain people in place. And they said what they was going to do. And when it's time for them to get in the office, we were actually looking to see if they were going to do what they said they was going to do. Even with our president, we were looking to see who he was going to have as a VP. It was a strategic plan that he said that he was going to do. He said he was going to have a minority. He said that it would, most likely be a woman. And nobody believed him. A lot of people didn't believe him. There was a lot of people that said if he gets a woman, then he's not going to win. But he did. So it was something that was a strategic plan. He had to take action. It was a plan in action. And then to see it actually done and expedited, it's a good thing. Do I have questions or comments at this point? Anybody that didn't say anything, you have anything you want to say at this point? Okay. So the plan should be complete and clear and current. Complete, clear, and current. The plan should be very clear for us to understand. First of all, if it's a plan, we'd like for you to complete the plan before you start trying to share it with us or even tell us to do it, right? Then you say, what is your plan and what exactly, how's this going to affect everybody? How's it going to affect me? How's it going to affect you? Okay, so the plan should be complete, clear, and current. Additionally, the action plan should include information and ideas that you have already gathered when you were brainstorming about your objectives and your strategies. What are the steps you must take to carry out your objectives while still fulfilling your vision and your mission? Now it's time for all the most, as I said before, the components to come together. While the plan might address general goals, that's your vision, your mission, right? Your objective, your strategic plans, all of that. And so while the plan might address general goals, you want to see accomplished, the action steps will help you determine the specific actions you will take to help make your vision a reality. Here are some of the guidelines of your steps. And that's going to be the next one. You see in this flow, it's not a flow chart, it's a picture. It says, where are you going? Why, when, how, and why. Where are you going? This is, the W's thing. Where are you going? Why, when, how, and why. These are some of the questions that you want to answer. So here's some of the guidelines. Members of the community initiative will want to determine what action or change will occur, who will carry it out, when will it take place, and for how long. Especially if it's retail and they're doing some construction and it affects where you can park your car, or a route that you have to take, or you have to reroute, go take a detour route. People want to know now how long this is going to go, and out of courtesy, you should let them know. You're going to have some angry people in your community. What resources? Money? How much is it going to cost? What's the overhead? Staff. Do you have to hire new people? Do you have enough people in place? Do you have to hire temporary workers, consultants, or what have you? And so what's needed to carry out the change? Communication. There's always communication necessary. Who should know what? So I kind of like that picture because it says success just ahead. But you need to know where you're going, and you need a vision. So that's what I had for you tonight in terms of the power. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. Anybody have any comments? Or anything that you want to add to that? With the strategic planning. This really coincides with everything that we've learned so far, and even the pyramid that I gave you with the vision, the mission, the values. These are all things that's very important. You should remember some of that because it might show up on the test or something like that. But these are all things that's very important. You can't leave any of that out. If you're doing something that's going to, like I said, affect the general public, right? There's a lot of things that happen, like when they decided that they were going to build the Lexington line of the trains and stuff like that. But what they didn't tell you is that they was going to have to shut down certain streets. You'd be like, and it affected the people that were commuting. I remember Con Edison decided after September 11 on the Lower East Side, Con Edison's, which is like right before you reach like Houston Street. And it used to only be like a couple of blocks, but because of the terrorist attacks and whatever their reasons, you could no longer get off on the 14th Street exit, right? And that's one of the exits I used to take on to work. So you had to go all the way down further to Houston and come back up. So it's like one of those things that they probably wanted to tell you, but it wasn't a part of their plan. You know what I'm saying? But it would have been nice to hear it about it. Eventually, they just totally closed that exit up, so it's still sealed up. So sometimes, in order to make things more convenient and safer, sometimes you do need to be able to tell the community. And eventually, you saw something on the news as they talked about it, what they needed to do. Anybody have any comments or questions? Some of you that haven't said anything, I just want to get your feedback. What do you think? And before I ask any questions, like anybody have anything for their homework or anything like that? What do you think about that with the strategic planning? The strategy of actions. What did you learn just from listening to this PowerPoint presentation about a strategic action plan? Why is it necessary? Anybody that didn't say anything?
I think it's important to establish it before, starting the plan itself, because that way you have everyone on the same page and you have everything transparent and people know what to expect.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that you will remember after this class, okay, when you get ready to start making your strategic action plan, you're going to say, oh, I got to think and consider about other people. I got to consider about my general environment. I'm going to have to talk to an attorney and get some information about what I'm doing. And definitely an advisor, or maybe somebody that's already done what you've done. That's someplace. Somebody gave me that. They said, Marie, if you're trying to get into a different line of business, allow yourself to be found in places that those people are. Allow yourself to kind of like brush shoulders and communicate, because who you know is very important. It's very important, and even to be progressive in any industry, it's good to know people. So anybody else has a comment on that? Why is it important to have an action, a strategic action plan in place? Detailed.
Succeed.
Yeah, go ahead, Becky. Go ahead.
To succeed and to make sure that your mission and vision will be achieved.
That's right. Exactly. I had an aunt that was affected by COVID, so she wasn't able to make decisions and share with everybody what she wanted to have in place. Let me tell you, that lady had it together. Everybody knew what to do. So my family knew exactly what to do. They knew where it was. They knew what she wanted because she told them, and then she had things in place. So it's very important, especially if you have a business and you know there's going to be people coming and running and saying, well, Marie told me I can take over the whole business. Marie said I could be the one to do it if I get sick. And then it's so funny because there's people when they get sick and they say, well, such said I should take over. They say, I never told them that. It's just good to have things in place. It's good to have your action plan in place, and need to have your trust and your wills in place. Those things in business, something that we don't always want to talk about. It's just good to do it. I have old school parents. I think they were old before they were old. So my mother invested in insurance when she was 23 years old, but that's because she lost her father at a young age. So that has been something very important to her. You know where it is, and every now and then they remind, Mom, we know where everything is. We know what you want to do. You already didn't tell us. It's just good to have things in place like that. And it gives you a peace of mind, and a peace of mind to those that are your loved ones and the people that are working with you. Right? But in terms of a plan being totally worked out, the other thing is good. I could tell you this. When you have trained people and you see that they carry out the way that you tell them to, it's a good feeling, but they won't do that if you didn't have your action plan already laid out and you didn't reiterate, this is my vision, this is how I handle things. I'm a person of value, integrity. And so if this happens, then you do this. In case of emergency, you do that. I like in this presentation, in the research and in the book, it talks about the community a lot, because there's a lot of people in the world that really don't care about people like they should. They're just about money, and they don't care about how it affects the community. They don't care about how it's affecting our children and the environment and even the ecosystem. There's some people that care more about money, and they know that it's a problem, but they're not going to bring it up unless you find out. They're not going to tell you. So all of that falls in line. That's why they kept talking about, in the and even in the video that you saw, it's just important to have everything in place, right? And when you have competition, you need to always go back so that you can understand and realize that I need to be relevant in this process and in this different industry, like how you saw LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm sure there's some things that even the brilliant Mark Zuckerberg I'm sure there's some things that he changed and critiqued a little bit when LinkedIn got involved. Maybe he, did a few more things on the professional side. Even the brilliant ones, that you can take my idea and embellish it and go someplace running with it, right? If I don't necessarily have everything in place. But then I might need to critique it a little bit and say so I can stay in sync in the competition. Now we know that the owners of Facebook, they are far ahead of most people. Let's just tell the truth about it. And but the world as we know it is not going to let them just make a total monopoly of the whole thing and just totally dominate it. That's when the government officials say, do we have to step in? But anyway, yeah, so this is a pretty good topic, and it's a very good topic with people that are planning to have their own company. And also to show you a very important side of when you're working for a company, that you know what's going on. There's some people that never really read the mission statement of a company. So you're working for a company, you're happy you're making the money, but if you read that mission statement and the vision statement, I think that you would better appreciate your opportunities, and you also feel like, wow, I'm blessed to be here. Or you may not want to be there. Might be a reason that you don't want to be there. But that's why you educate yourself and you do your research. Any more comments? So who didn't say something? Philip? Come on, Philip. I'm going to pick on you tonight. What do you think? Why do you think it's important to have your action plan together, Philip?
Well, it could be, it is very important in private, and like if someone wants to open like a private business, and they need to have like action plan for the future. So it's good like to see how people are gonna behave, and how employees are gonna behave, and if something happens, so they know how to react.
That's right. Exactly. I like how he said, so I trained a lot of people, and I expect for them to behave as Philip said in that matter. I didn't train you just so you go out there and just do whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying? I remember somebody came and told me and said, Marie, what's going on with this guy over here you training? They called me in just to do the training, right? So he was sitting on top of the file, just chilling. He wasn't even like sitting on the file cabinet. He was straddling the file cabinet. Right? So like one leg was on one side and one was on the other. Brilliant guy, very smart, and he's still working at that company, doing excellent now. But they was like, what's up? He's like macking with all the girls and flirting with everybody. And so I just came and told him, I said, okay, I'll give you this. Everybody can see, we know you're attractive, but that's not what you're getting paid to do. You're not a Mac daddy. So when you come to work, you don't straddle file cabinets. And I had to do that. But like I said, he was a good worker, but that's not, I'm expecting him to behave a certain way. Like Philip said, that's not, and then you're making me look bad because they hired me to come in there and train you and you straddling the file cabinet. So even though he was as smart as he could be, had degrees, I had to kind of give him a little help in his how he conducted himself in the office. Any questions at this point? No questions, no comments? Okay, it's 8:07. This is early, y'all. Let me see if there's anything else I need to tell you. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, so if you look at your weekly schedule, everything is there to the end of the semester, so you have an idea of what you do. So I went ahead and posted it. I think that's all right. And once again, I'll be posting the reading material for tonight also in the reading section in case you can't read it. That's it. All right. So if all minds are clear and we didn't take another break, I'm going to say good night. thank you for allowing me to teach you. Remember, education is power. And the sky's the limit. Don't let nobody tell you what you can't do. All right? Have a wonderful night.
Thank you for you too.
Teacher,
Okay.
same.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a good one. Enjoy your week and be safe.
You
Thank
too.
Have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.